Greetings, everyone. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And we're moving right along with the month of October. And as it starts to get colder and colder going into the winter months, we might want to consider having our food delivered, okay?
Yeah, I got used to food delivery. I know that you don't love food delivery, Tom.
No, I don't, really. Maybe because it's, not because it's convenient, or I don't think it's not convenient,
right.
But I think those guys riding those scooters delivering food
They're
are a
girls
little
too.
reckless, okay? They go a little too fast. They don't obey the traffic laws, so I don't want to support them until they start to behave themselves. But in the meantime, if you're running a restaurant, you might consider hiring one of these companies to deliver your food for you, and that's what Doris is talking about with Mike today. He's going to give her some advice on that very subject. So let's get to it, everybody. Let's listen to their conversation, and then we'll come right back to discuss it.
Thanks for taking the time to meet with me today.
It's my pleasure. I understand that you are considering a collaboration with a food delivery service to handle your orders.
I certainly am. Fewer people seem to be dining out nowadays. I think adding home delivery would really boost business for my restaurant.
The latest statistics regarding customer behavior certainly back up that assumption. So I agree that it would be a wise move.
I want to do it the right way, though. In fact, I haven't ruled out handling the delivery service in-house. This would enable us to have more control and ensure that the food quality wouldn't suffer.
That's certainly an option, but there are several downsides to this approach too.
Oh, really? What are they?
You'll likely need to hire a new full-time employee to handle your deliveries, especially if your operation is busy. In addition, your customers won't be able to track their orders unless you invest in some custom software.
I didn't even consider that. That would require a large investment, wouldn't it?
Yes, you would need to allocate a large sum of money for that. On the other hand, you could start working with a delivery service immediately for just a fraction of that cost.
You raise some excellent points. I'm going to do some more research to get some clarity on the matter before I make a commitment. Okay, guys, let's take a look at the conversation here. We're weighing food delivery options. Often when you have a choice to make, you'll weigh options. Usually, people will write down a list of pros and cons. What are the positive things if I make this decision, and what are the negative things if I make this decision? And then they'll look at their list and try to weigh the options and make a good choice. So we've got Doris here, who's looking into perhaps using a food delivery service, or maybe even having an in-house delivery service. If it's in-house, it means that restaurant would hire someone who would make the deliveries.
Indeed, and they're weighing the food delivery options. So look at this word here, weigh here. That's a verb. And we use that when we want to find out how heavy someone is. I know in Chinese you'll ask, 你体重多少? And so in English we don't say that. What is your weight? You can, but the more common way to ask someone's weight is, how much do you weigh? And in that case, we're using the word weigh as a verb here. So in this particular case, we're not trying to figure out how heavy these food delivery companies are. We're just kind of considering our options. We're just, considering it, thinking it over, and we're weighing those options. And Doris begins the conversation by saying, thanks for taking the time to meet with me today. So yes, of course, she's polite at the beginning because they're having a conversation, and it's a business conversation.
Yeah, it sure is. And it sounds like he's going to help her make a good decision. So it's his pleasure. He's happy to meet with her. And his understanding of the situation is that she's currently thinking about having a collaboration or working with a food delivery service to handle the orders of her restaurant. Now, I've noticed that some restaurants will work with all of the food delivery services. Really, there are only two main ones here in Taiwan right now. We won't mention their names. But I've also noticed that some restaurants will only work with one or the other. You have to pay some of your profits to those food delivery services. So anytime you use a food delivery service, it's going to cost the restaurant some extra money. But we kind of had to turn to food delivery services during the COVID pandemic. So she is considering a collaboration or working together with a food delivery service.
Exactly. So collaboration here, of course, is a noun to consider a working partnership with a food delivery service. You're considering having some sort of contract or some kind of professional relationship with a food delivery service, and that food delivery service will handle your orders. When people, of course, want food, they make an order over the phone or over the internet or whatever. And Doris says, well, I certainly am. I am considering a collaboration with a food delivery service. Fewer people seem to be dining out nowadays. This trend might continue once the COVID pandemic sort of passes us by, when it's not so serious. People may still want to eat at home just to be on the safe side, and because it's actually more convenient that way. If you go to a restaurant, of course, you need to figure out how to get there. You need to make the time for it. And you also need to, of course, find parking.
Oh, that's always hard. Now, Mike says the latest statistics, which means the latest figures, the latest numbers, or you could say data regarding the customer behavior, because they do studies about this kind of thing, of course. It's usually a marketing study that does these sort of they look at customer behavior to know how they should market a product or what they should change to improve service. So he's talking about the latest figures, and he says it certainly looks like customers are wanting more home delivery service. And they're not eating in the restaurant as much as they used to. So if something backs up something else, it just means it kind of supports that idea. We use that quite often in business. Well, that backs up his plan, or that backs up the proposal that you wanted to do. So that kind of supports it. Now, what's an assumption? Well, that's one of our vocabulary words. And if you make an assumption, you're saying that you consider something to be true or to be the case, something that will happen in the future, but you don't have proof or you don't have evidence to back that up. Ooh, I just used backed up. So, yeah, an assumption is just something you tend to think is true or you tend to think will happen, but you're not positive. You don't have evidence.
Right, it's kind of based on past experience or past information that you have. So you make an assumption or you assume something. To assume, of course, is the verb. You might make assumptions about people. For example, if you have a customer who has always bought this product from you before, you might assume or make an assumption that they want to order it again. You never know for sure, though. You got to check each time. But, of course, she's got this assumption that more people are dining out, and of course, if they have some kind of home delivery service, it would boost business. And he says, yes, the statistics back that assumption up. They reinforce it. They make it look like it's true. So I agree that it would be a wise move. It would be very smart to have some kind of collaboration with the food delivery service.
Now, Doris says she wants to do it the right way, though. And she says, in fact, I haven't ruled out handling the delivery service in-house or delivery service that would be supplied by her own restaurant. She wouldn't be using a food delivery service. To rule something out means you've kind of crossed it off the list of possibilities. Maybe you have some options or choices that you're looking at, and after you get some more information, you think, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. For example, you might be looking to move. So you have different neighborhoods you've written down that you're interested in looking at. And after you see some apartments, you think, yeah, I'm going to rule out Da'an district. It's just not for me, or it's too expensive, something like that. So to rule out just means you've decided not to consider something because of some information that you have.
Exactly. And of course, she's ruling out the idea of doing in-house delivery. If something's in-house, it's with your own company. And I can only think of a couple of places that have in-house delivery. Some of the Western pizza restaurants, Domino's and Pizza Hut, I believe, have those in-house delivery services. They don't rely on the other ones.
Although they use those too, Tom.
Yes, of course, you want to deliver your product to your customers in whichever way possible. So again, she hasn't ruled out delivering in-house, and she goes on to say this would enable us to have more control and ensure that the food quality wouldn't suffer. So that's an advantage, or those are some advantages to doing delivery in-house, to do it yourself. Yeah, you can control the quality of your food. If somebody else delivers it for you, it may not get there in one piece.
That's true. And sometimes I found that I'm waiting for my delivery guy or girl to come, but they have to make another delivery first. Meanwhile, my food's getting cold. So that's happened as well. So what are downsides? Downsides are the negative aspects or part of something. The opposite is an upside, downside, pro, con. We use all of those words. So Doris goes, oh, really? What are they? Well, Mike is telling her that it's going to cost more to do something in-house. And if you're a pizza company, you probably can afford somebody in-house because that's the primary part of your business is just delivering pizzas, right? He says you'll likely have to hire a new full-time employee to handle your deliveries. And if you only have one person doing deliveries, that's probably not going to be enough. If all of your business, or maybe even 50%, is just delivery, especially if it's busy, during mealtime. So he says, in addition, your customers won't be able to track their orders unless you invest in some custom software. If it's custom, it is software that's built specifically for your company, and that can be very expensive. To invest in something is to take money that you have and to give it to a company or something that you believe will bring back a profit, and trust that in the future, that money that you give them will be doubled or tripled if you're very lucky. Usually if you invest in something, you're investing in real estate or stock or bonds or maybe even a new business.
Or some people are investing in cryptocurrency, that online money that some people think is going to give you a big payback. But here, of course, it's not like the old days when you just delivered things. People called you and said they wanted a pizza, so you sent it over. It's not so simple anymore because people want to track their orders. They want to know where it is, when it's going to get there. And above all, they want to make the order online using their phones. No one wants to make an actual phone call anymore. We just want to send text messages. So because of that reality, you need to invest in some custom software, a computer program that is designed specifically for doing food delivery. And Doris says, I didn't even consider that. I had not thought of that.
Yeah, it would be a large investment, she says, wouldn't it? Her guess is right. She assumes correctly. Her assumption is correct. And Mike says, yes, you would need to allocate or put aside some money, quite a large sum, he says, for that. So on the other hand, you could start working with a delivery service immediately. They've already set up their business. So it would just be a fraction of the cost that it would cost you to have an in-house delivery service. A fraction of something is just a percentage of something. He's telling her it would be much less expensive just to use a food delivery service that's already in existence, already set up.
Yep, it would cost just a fraction of that, maybe 1/3 the price or something. They're already set up with the software. You don't have to invest in that software yourself. If you just collaborate with one of these food delivery services, you're good to go right there, and it's cheap. And Doris says, you raise some excellent points. You've brought up some very excellent information that I need to think over. That's what a point is. Of course, she says, yes, you've brought up some excellent points. You've raised some excellent points. I'm going to do some more research to get some clarity on the matter before I make a commitment. Now, here we've got the word clarity. Clarity just means you want things to be clear, okay? Clarity is just a word that means it describes a situation that is easily understood. There aren't things blocking the way. It's not going to have any extra information. It's just going to be clear and to the point.
Yeah, so you understand what someone's trying to communicate. Clarity is very important. Now, she wants to get some clarity before she makes what she's calling a commitment. When you make a commitment, it's like you're making a promise that you're going to do something. You make a decision and you don't go back on it. So when you make a commitment to do something, you need to do a good job and not to say last minute that, oh, you know what? I'm kind of busy. Don't think I can get it done for you. Sorry. When you make a commitment, especially in your professional life, it's very important that you follow through and get it done. One of the things we're going to do when we get back is talk about some of these ways we can express disagreement. But first, guys, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello, everyone. 大家好，我是派老师。今天讲解的是10月份 Unit 3 Weighing Food Delivery Options。连续2天，我们会一起进一步了解多益测验。第一天是一篇长对话，有2位主角餐厅老板 Doris 还有顾问 Mike， 他们一起讨论到底订餐外送要餐厅自己送好，还是外包给外送平台比较好。这类的商业对话在多益听力测验当中很常见。听力如果要答得好，事先对内容的预测非常重要。英文呢，我们说这叫 anticipation。这样的能力来自于平常练习的时候对结构的掌握。以这一则对话为例，点餐外送通常会涉及到哪些词汇？同学要事先有一些掌握。我们听之前就要先问问自己，比方说下单怎么说，接单怎么说，外送员怎么说，追踪订单又怎么说。而他们既然是在讨论2个不同的方案，要选择哪一个，自然就会去讨论他们的优缺点。所以呢，同学要特别的去注意，他们说其中一个方式有什么优点，又有哪一些缺点。这样做，主动聆听是有好处的，我们的注意力会比较集中，不会只听到一连串英文单字，抓不到重点。请同学以后做听力测验的时候，按照老师的建议做做看哦。好，首先我们先看标题 Weighing Food Delivery Options。Weigh 是及物动词，表示称重，不过可以引申出评估、衡量的意思。餐点外送至少有2种选择方案，一个是餐饮业者自己来送，另外一个则是找熊猫或吴伯义这些外送平台。接下来我们一起按照时间的先后顺序看看这段对话。餐厅老板娘 Doris 先谢谢顾问拨出时间跟他讨论 Thanks for taking the time to meet with me。 而顾问 Mike 则回答 It's my pleasure。 I understand that you're considering a collaboration with the food delivery service to handle your orders。 那请注意到这个 collaboration 就是合作，而 handle your orders 就是处理你的订单。老板娘接着回复 I certainly am. Fewer people seem to be dining out nowadays。 好，这里呢有几个片语，请同学特别注意。首先就是我们说的外食是 dining out。 接着呢，我们说把餐点送到家，这种服务叫 home delivery。 而后面呢，我们知道说这家餐厅想要做外送的服务，因为可以增加业绩。增加业绩怎么说？就是 boost business。 台湾3级警戒期间，餐厅不能提供内用，只有外带。 You can only order take out， 或者呢英式英语所说的 take away。 Mike 接着又说 The latest statistics regarding。 好，请看到这个句子，请同学呢特别注意 back up that assumption，就是这证实了这样子的假设。 数据呢证实了这样子的认定假设。好，接着顾问呢就表示说他是同意做外送的餐点服务。这么一来呢，这是一个非常聪明的做法。好，那我们看一下顾问所说的英文是 a wise move。那请同学记下来，英语当中有一个片语叫 make a move， 其实就是 take action， 采取行动的意思。那老板娘 Doris 听到 Mike 认同他的想法，也接着说 I want to do it the right way。 我想要呢做好做对。 In fact, I haven't ruled out handling the delivery service in-house。 这里有几个重点，请同学注意。 Rule out 是排除可能性，表示呢老板娘并不排除自己来做。 In-house 就是公司或者业者自己来。相较之下，请同学把老师说的重点补充记下来。相较之下，外包给别人做叫做 outsource， O-U-T-S-O-U-R-C-E， 或者 contract out， C-O-N-T-R-A-C-T， contract out， 外包给别人做。比方说 Fancy restaurants outsource the delivery to third-party delivery companies. Fancy restaurants outsource the delivery to third-party delivery companies. 一些比较高级的餐厅把外送的服务呢包给其他的外送业者来做。而 Mike 接着说，其实可以自己做，不过是有缺点的。请同学把 downsides to this approach 画起来。这 downsides 就是缺点的意思，介系词我们用 to。而 downsides 有一个同义词叫 drawback， 也请同学记下来 D-R-A-W-B-A-C-K drawback。 好，那接着呢 Doris 就回答说，哦，是有哪些缺点啊？ Really? What are they? Mike 就很诚实的告诉他说，那首先你们要雇佣一位新的全职员工 A new full-time employee。 那再来，生意如果很好，我们请看到If your operation is busy， 请画起来，这就表示生意很好的意思。那再来呢 Mike 继续说，可能还有哪些缺点？他们可能要做额外的投资，比方说什么？要买客制的软体 Custom software。 为什么要买客制软体？因为要方便点餐的顾客追踪订单 Track their orders。 好的，那以上呢就是我们针对这个对话所做的中文讲解，谢谢大家。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, everybody, let's continue with our lesson. We've got some useful expressions, and we've got a discussion question for you. So let's talk about some of these useful expressions. Remember, Doris and Mike are having a discussion, and sometimes when you have a discussion, people don't agree on certain points in the discussion. Okay, do you support this political party? Yes, I do. No, I don't. So you disagree. And how do you express disagreement? Well, here are some examples. The most common thing to say is, I don't think so. What you said is something I do not agree with. I don't think so. So here's the example sentence. I don't think so. I believe the opposite will happen. What you say will happen will not happen. Actually, the opposite will happen. Instead of the prices going down, they'll go up.
Yeah, I think the way these are ordered, Tom, it seems like one is the strongest way to disagree. Number 2 sounds a little bit more polite. And then number 3 is the most polite, or the one that sounds less like you're completely opposed to what someone's saying. So I'm afraid I disagree. It also depends on the tone of your voice. One of the things you don't want to do is say, you're wrong. You're just wrong. So these are polite ways to express disagreement. We like to say you should be agreeable when you disagree with someone. So number 2, I'm afraid I disagree. I don't believe raising ticket prices for this show is a good idea. At work, in businesses, we often have conflicting ideas. Sometimes I work with a group of people at church, and we have a council that we talk about different issues. And I think it's really interesting how some people are really good at saying things like, oh, that's a good idea. What I would do is I would just change this a little bit. But you can be very pleasing and agreeable as you disagree with someone. And that's important if you're speaking to your superior, your bosses, even your coworkers.
Yeah, I've noticed that here in Taiwan, you can't be so direct with someone. If they say something that you don't agree with, you have to be kind of nice about it. You have to give them face. Otherwise, they'll get mad at you and never want to talk to you again. So, of course, you don't want to be rude. And these are some polite ways of saying that you don't agree. I'm afraid I disagree. I don't believe raising ticket prices for the show is a good idea. Here's another one that isn't so strong. I'm not so sure about that. Okay, well, what you said sounds good, but me, I'm not so sure about that. I think I have a different opinion. And here's the example sentence. It says, let me think it over before you give me, let me think it over before I give you my final answer. So, yeah, you kind of soften it up there and say you need some time to think it over, to consider it.
Which is always a good idea, actually. Not every idea is completely bad, so you might want to take a few minutes and consider it a bit before you give someone your final answer. So here's our discussion question, Tom. I'll ask you first.
Okay.
Do you often order food from food delivery services? Explain why or why not.
Well, I've said this before, I have not, but I should say that my daughter did one time. She was alone at home. My wife and I were off doing something else, and she was hungry, so she decided to order from one of those food delivery services.
Really?
And she said it was quite easy. You just go onto the app, you make your order, and lickety-split, really fast, it is delivered to your front door. And so I suppose I should consider that myself and quit being so stubborn about my opinions regarding that. How about yourself?
Oh, I must confess, I probably order from the delivery service companies at least 4, 5, 6 times a week. Yeah. And I always feel bad if I don't order enough. So sometimes I order 2 meals so that, you know, they don't feel like it's a waste of time to come. Yeah, I've started to be better about that. I'm trying to cook more at home. But wow, there are some tasty restaurants that aren't very convenient. And it would cost me more to either get a taxi, go get the food and bring it home. And to get a bus, it might take an hour and a half. So yeah, I do use them quite often. They know
they probably are quite useful for people who are elderly or something like that.
Yes.
Or injured or something and can't go out. So they do, of course, have a role to play in our society. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today and the end of our program as well. So thank you for joining us, and please join us again next time when we continue to talk about this very same subject. Tomorrow's lesson is entitled Getting Started with AMC Eats. Make sure you tune in and find out what that is all about. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.